From the bayous in Louisiana to the timber country up north, you'll find them out on the trapline, chasing furs to put up on the board. Mixing up another batch of that magical stuff, chilling around the fire after the show. Hey, it's Sarah and Jeff, and maybe a guest on the Trapping Radio 2.0.
Well, welcome to Trapping Radio this week. We got special guest Jeff Hagerty and Tim Roper, known as on YouTube and stuff as Meat Trapper. And our sponsors this week, unofficial sponsor is Trapline Coffee Company, because Jeff Hagerty's here. And he supplied all the coffee for the camp and stuff, so... And I will say that the doctor made me get on some. I only have one cup of coffee a day, so I'm on decaf. He brought me some, and it's really good. I can't tell the difference, except for I don't get all, as Sarah would say, irritable.
Gotta keep you calm.
Yeah, keep me calm. But so we got Trapline Coffee, and we got fntpost.com, and if you need any trapping supplies or anything, they're a good one to go through up to Alpena, Michigan. So now we did that, we'll get on to it. Thanks for doing the interview, Tim.
No problem.
With a lot of people, especially on Trapping Radio, know you and stuff, and they haven't heard from you for a while, so...
Yeah, I'm still kicking. I've relocated from Alabama, where I used to be, outside of Birmingham, up to northwest Tennessee, up around the Clarksville area, and sort of getting to know that area and learning to trap all over again, because conditions are quite different, and that's been a real eye-opener for me. You develop a system of trapping based on one location and one set of conditions, and then you go to a different state and a different set of conditions, and all of a sudden what you used to do doesn't really work and doesn't really apply. And so, it's taught me that you're always learning.
You are always learning.
No, I bet you guys, since y'all do so much out of state and state hopping, you understand that really well.
Yeah, especially like here this week, with the water conditions are so low, and, where there's been, say, otter crossover for... as long as I've been coming here, and there ain't one.
Yeah.
Because there ain't no water. And even if you keep going to the same place, the conditions change.
Exactly.
A lot can happen in a year.
Yeah, I've been here when the canals were iced over, and it was like under ice beaver trapping. And then today I'm in a short sleeve shirt. It's 70 degrees outside, and like you're saying, one thing that I always try and stress to people is, if life hands you lemons, make lemonade. And so, like, one of the things that you were mentioning is the lack of beaver and otter sign because the water was so low. Well, that opened up a lot of areas for the hogs to move in out there. And so a lot of areas that I used to go to last year and years before that were underwater are now high and dry, and they're loaded with hogs out there. So you really just have to be nimble on your feet and be prepared for whatever Mother Nature throws at you.
And there's way more cats here this year than what we've seen in past years. So, no.
Hopefully they'll stop walking past our sets and
exactly.
show a little interest.
Exactly.
Yeah. You snared a hog out there yesterday where you used to beaver trap.
Yep, exactly. It's crazy because, and the thing is I sort of shot myself in the foot. I made some assumptions because I've been here for several years in a row, and I said, I know exactly what I need to bring. I need to bring beaver snares, and I need this, and I need this, and I'm not going to need that. I'm not going to need that. And then I get out here, and there's hardly any beaver or otter, and it's all hogs, and so I need to learn that lesson and when you're traveling out of state, you got to bring what you need because there's no running back and getting it like back home.
Yeah, and like you say, you learn things, every time, you change your environment, like moving from Alabama to Tennessee or something like that. I think I've been state hopping now for 12 years, and it feels like for 12 years, I've been a greenhorn for 12 years, you know what I mean? It feels like you're learning every time you go somewhere. Like, I think the last time I was down here was in 2020. In fact, I know it was 2020, because when Jeff and I went home, that's when COVID was just starting to be announced on the radios and TV and stuff. And so all my experience here was based off of 4 years ago.
Yep.
And so I got here, and water's 6 foot shallower than what it was. And it's hard to find some pinch points.
Yep.
But definitely always a learning curve.
Yeah, that's one thing that, like out there on the island where it's all dry now and those hogs are out there. I'm used to snaring trails and hog trails and all of that. And you get out there and it's wide open and they've just got acres and acres torn up, and there was really no trails. They're just everywhere. They're going every which way. And that was another thing, because normally when you're snaring a hog trail or something, they beat the trail down and Ray Charles could see where to put the snare. But out there, I really had to step back, and I had to look carefully and really do some looking at sign to figure out where was the best place to put a snare, because I could have put 300 snares at one spot, but you can't do that. And the funny thing is I put my game camera up, and that's another thing, is these cameras are just invaluable. And you guys are running those cellular cameras, so you get real time, feedback. But I had a Reconyx out there, and I put probably half a dozen snares. I gang set one little area, and I went back the next morning. There's nothing touched, nothing there. Looked at the camera, and I had a big hog that just walked in between like 2 or 3 of my sets, and right past the camera. And the amazing thing is then Carl caught a spotted hog, and I started looking at that hog that he caught and compared it to the one on my camera, and I'm convinced that's the same hog. And it traveled in one night all that distance.
It's a long ways too between there.
Yeah, because and Dustin was talking about that beaver, and how far that beaver traveled in one night.
Yeah, we had beaver that I caught, and it was in shallow water, twisted out, and I caught it in another set. What was it, like 2.5 miles away? The night that's that same night.
Same night.
And that wasn't like swimming down the edge of a lake shore either. That was like 2.5 miles in canals and
because that spotted hog was out on the island way out there, and of course you've got to swim the sloughs to get off that island, and then he was headed to the gut pit where he got caught. And that just tells you that's really eye-opening. And so the technology and the cameras, man, don't discount that, because
what we've learned is from them cameras, we've learned a lot of different stuff, but one of the main things to me is that you're really not that good out there. I mean, that's not your environment, and you're not that good. If you go out and say you caught 5 bobcats in a day, you know what? You didn't catch every one that went by. There must have been a shitload that went by, because, I mean, it teaches you. It basically, the cameras humble you, and and you can't learn anything if you think you're the greatest out there. So.
I remember I made a 220 bucket set and put a camera up in front of it for coon, and baited the back of that bucket, and I came back the next morning, there was a possum that I'd caught. And so you think, okay, possum came by, you caught a possum. Well, when I looked at the camera, I had like 4 coons that visited that set that would not go in that bucket. They were climbing on top of the bucket, they were poking around in front of the bucket, they were all off to the side. And the possum just walked right up and went right in, of course, being a possum. That's what possums do. But, I had no idea that an entire family of coons had worked that set.
Yep.
And then that sort of showed me that if I had, instead of having a 220 in that bucket, if I had put a couple of footholds around it, I'd have caught multiple animals.
Yep.
And that's, that goes back to gang setting. It sounds silly to put 3 or 4 footholds, at one spot, but, looking at the camera, that's what I should have done.
Yep. No, that's what we found with the cameras, that stuff goes around, the sets. And, like here last year, I had a blind set for an otter with a foothold, and that otter came up there, and it looked perfect to me. But I had it on video where the otter looked at that and went right around it.
Yep.
And then when he came back, he went right around the same side again. And that wasn't where he was going before that.
Yeah.
So even a foothold, that they know something is not right.
I always pictured like an otter, bouncing through an area at a rather fast pace. That was always kind of my impression of an otter when it, a crossover or something like that. I always pictured them going at a really fast pace. Now, granted, they will, but especially when we were down in Louisiana last year, and we were putting a lot of trail cameras out on crossovers. And the one thing that really stuck out in my mind is how aware an otter is of everything in that crossover, right? If there's a leaf that came in, it knows that there's a new leaf in that cross. You know what I mean? If there's a stick there, if there anything that's out of place or whatever, they in my opinion, they're a water coyote. Right, they're a coyote of the water, and they're very skittish. And anything they're anything that is out of place, it will make them stop, right? And they'll start looking around. They'll pause, right? That's what I think was very noticeable to me. And it didn't matter if you were, two of the sets, right? So one, using body grips, obviously that's going to put some obstruction in their way. And that was making them pause. Didn't mean they wouldn't go through. A lot of them were going around, but it would just cause them to pause, right? Same thing with a foothold. And if you were blocking that foothold down, they seen those sticks, whether you're using stepping sticks or something like that. Something's different, and it caused them to pause. And it was just something was different there.
Yep. I agree 100%. 1 year and a half or so ago, during the off season, I put a camera up. And I was just watching banks on a creek, and I was just seeing, what was coming up and down the creek. And I didn't have any lure, didn't have set out or anything like that. But I was shocked at how many nights otters evidently saw that camera back up on the bank and came up out of the water, up on the bank, and got right in the face of that camera, like 3 inches from the camera, just looking straight into it. And like you said, they saw it. And, the average person would walk right past a camera back in the woods like that.
Right.
But they were right in it.
Yeah.
Just saying hi.
Just saying hi.
Hey, Tim.
Yeah. Now, if I'd put a foothold in front of that camera, they'd have never visited.
So, we're going to be YouTube famous.
That's right.
It's the meat tenderizer. I got to get out of here.
Yeah, if they had fingers, they'd have flipped me off,
One thing that a couple years ago when we were down here trapping together, one thing I found rather fascinating was your system of, going out in a kayak or canoe, and you were just running snares. It's not a familiar practice, especially in the north. We don't have these big cypress swamps and stuff like that. You want to explain a little bit? Maybe your system.
The first thing that a small boat, or a kayak, or a small canoe, or what have you, and I'm running right now a Discovery 119 canoe. It's 11 feet 9 inches long, and so you're not going to put a dozen 330s in that. You're not going to put a dozen TS85s in that. So you've got to run snares, and you've got to be prepared for a variety of conditions. And so what I do is I set my snares up to where I have the snare, then I have the extension cable, I have an earth anchor, and for these type of conditions, I use the Berkshire soft earth, the big ones. And then I also have a spring clip on it. I coil all that up, so when I grab that, I have what I need, regardless of what conditions I'm going to run into. So I'll uncoil the snare. It's got the extension cable already on it. And if I don't have a good tree to tie off to, it's already got the earth anchor on it, so I can just push that down in the mud. If I do have a good tree, then I can just clip it with that spring clip on there, and then I'm gone. And I use a coil of 11 gauge wire. Now, once again, being in a small canoe or a small kayak, I can't carry the pre-made snare supports, like you can in the back of a truck. And those are nice and convenient. And so I carry pliers and a roll of 11 gauge wire, and I'll do one of two things. If there's a tree that's within where I'm setting, close, say 12 inches or so, I'll put my support wire and twist it onto the tree or the limb or what have you. I don't like to go farther than, say, 12 inches on a support wire, because it gets bouncy and unsteady, and I like it rock solid. So the next thing that I'll do is, beaver trapping, there's always going to be sticks everywhere. The beavers provide your snare supports for you. And so I'll just take a piece of a beaver stick, break it over my leg or whatever until I get, say, a 12 to 14 inch stick, and I'll twist the 11 gauge wire around that. Now, one of the things that I learned the hard way was a round stick spins, okay? And so I'll have my knife on me, and what I'll do is on the top and the bottom, I'll just cut a part of that stick away so that I have a flat surface on the top and a flat surface on the bottom. And that way the stick doesn't spin in the mud nearly as easily, because it's not round anymore. And that support wire, when I twist that 11 gauge wire onto the top of that stick, it doesn't want to spin around the round stick, because it's got a flat surface. And so, that way, I'm just carrying a pair of pliers, a roll 11 gauge wire, and then using whatever I have there, because it adds up. If you're, I weigh 200 pounds, I believe the canoe's capacity is 450 pounds, and if you've got it filled up with equipment, then you don't have any room for beavers,
Yep.
So, and plus, paddling, the more weight's in the boat, the harder it is to paddle. And like, you get out here and that wind's in your face, and I have perfected the ability to change wind direction. It will always blow into my face regardless of which way I turn. So I've never. So if you need the wind to blow a direction, you let me know, and I'll paddle that way, and it'll be right in my face. So.
You wouldn't make a good sailor.
No. So yeah, the idea is travel light, and improvise, and just use the natural materials instead of trying to carry the trapping supply catalog with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, like I said, I found it, fascinating, because I like that. I like simplicity,
Yeah.
And your approach is definitely made of simplicity, or perfected, from simplicity. And so really, really cool. We get, where we trap most time, we have the advantage of having a full truck bed right there,
Yeah.
for the most part. And so you're usually overflowing with all kinds of different gear, but
And I
it's
apply
definitely
that.
cool.
Yeah, I apply that simplicity principle to the actual boat itself. If you go look at my canoe, I don't have any camera attachments. I don't have any rod holders. I don't have any lights or mounts or anything like that, because you've got to be able to pick it up and drag it. You've got to be able to, throw it in the mud, and when it fills up with water, you got to be able to roll it over, and just it's basically just a hull, And the other thing that I would stress to people is, if you're going to buy a boat, buy a good quality one. You don't want one that's going to leak or that's cheap. And a paddle is critical. Your paddle is your motor. And if if you're going to buy a middle of the road boat, buy the highest quality paddle that you can, because if one paddle is 8 ounces lighter, that may not sound like a much, but I probably in the last 3 days I've probably paddled 22 miles, and you think about putting an 8 ounce weight on your foot and walking 22 miles, you'll feel it. And a good lightweight paddle is critical.
It's a lot of repetitions.
It's a lot of
8 ounce repetitions.
And then you're dragging beavers and fighting briars, and you get old, and every ounce counts.
Yes, it does.
And 8 ounces, 8 ounces, 8 ounces.
That's
8
right.
Ounces, 8
That's
ounces.
right.
Against the wind.
always against the wind.
So when when you first got into trapping, you were talking about the other night, but would love to hear it again. How did that? Because your whole life has been about the outdoors and trapping and the simplicity of it, and good products to use, not getting hung up on junk. Where did that all start?
Well, I think most people, at least I did, you'd make a full circle where when you first start trapping, you're doing these brain dead simple sets. Like you take a can of sardines and nail it to a tree and then put a trap under it, and you catch a coon and you go, wow, this is pretty cool. And then you start to try and get fancy, and you start to pick up all the secrets and all the gadgets and everything, and then it gets to the point to where you've got so much crap and so much stuff, it's too much work and it takes the fun out of it. And so then you start cutting back. And so now I've like come full circle to where I'm just back to, the basics. And when I first started, I was a hunting guide, and I'm working on a hunting plantation in South Carolina. And I knew nothing about trapping. I had no idea that people even really did it anymore. And the owner came to me one day and said, we've got a trapper coming out. He's going to thin out the nest predators. I need you to show him around and show him where the property lines are and take care of him, give him what he needs. And so I was like, yes, sir. And this old fella shows up, and he was driving this, it looked like a Sanford and Son jalopy truck, and it was rusted, and it was filled with rebar and wires and all this. And I was like, what in the heck is this? And the old man gets out, and his name was Skeet. And he was all gimped up, and he couldn't hardly walk. And so I was showing him around, and I was like, what do you do? How do you catch these animals? And he had the old Victor #1 long springs, the cheapest trap that you could possibly get. And he'd have a couple of feet of chain on it, and he had the old fox drags, the little 2-prong wire fox drags. And all he did was he rode up and down the dirt roads till he found a mud puddle, and he had a bag of corn on the seat next to him, and he would throw a couple of handfuls of corn in the mud puddle and drive off, and he'd do that. And then he came back the next day, and he was looking for coon tracks to see which mud puddles the coons had come to. And when he came to a mud puddle that the coons had been in, he took his little long spring, set it, and just tossed it out the window, and he'd put 3 or 4 of them in a mud puddle on a little fox drag. And then, of course, he roped me into it. He suckered me into going and checking for him. And so the coons would come along. They would be eating the corn out of the mud puddle, and they'd blunder along till they stepped in the long spring. And, of course, I'd find the coon like 30 feet up in a tree where it. So I'd be having to cut the tree down, playing Paul Bunyan to get his coon for him, And it was just stupid simple, but it worked. And he caught a pile of stuff off of this stupid, because he just did it over and over and over and over and over. And it's like they say in the Army, if it's stupid and it works, it ain't stupid. And that taught me a lot. He wasn't out buying the latest greatest of anything. He didn't have the money for it, and corn and dog food was his stuff. So the point is you don't have to have a lot of money, and you don't have to have super expensive stuff to go out and have fun and to catch stuff. So.
Well, you just caused a shortage of corn and dog food especially across Iowa.
Well, it's like down in lower Alabama, they have a big red fox population. It's gotten to the point where they're developing rabies because there's so many red fox. And there was a guy down there that I talked to that was catching the crap out of red fox. And I was like, what are you doing, dirt holes or flat sets? And he said, no. He would take an area and he would like rake the leaves off and clear like a 5 foot by 5 foot area. And he'd bed 3 or 4 traps in there. And then he would just scatter dog food over the top of the ground, just randomly scatter it. And those fox would come in and they would eat it and they'd be walking around stepping the trap. So it was basically the same thing that old man was doing with coons, but he was doing it with fox.
Just didn't have the mud puddle.
Yeah, I just didn't have the mud puddle. Just throw the stuff on the ground. I mean, it's drop dead simple.
It'd be fun to hear them two argue over you need the mud puddle to make this work.
That's right. to hide the trap. See, that's too much work to bed the trap. That's why us water trappers are just lazy.
Just throw it in.
Just throw it in the water.
I had an old guy down to Louisiana tell me about back in the day. He would go and take, I don't remember what he said for bait, but he'd put the bait in the middle of the road so the cars from both ways would have a shot at whatever was in the road. And then he would run the roads before daylight to see what he had, captured on his line. And he would run hundreds of miles of that.
Wow. No trap necessary.
No. He called it trapping.
Trapping without
I
trapping.
mean, it is.
It was a trap.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's funny that you talk about roads. It is surprising how these animals will cross these roads. I was in Alabama, and I was in downtown Birmingham, and it was a 4-lane interstate, 2 lanes going north, 2 lanes going south, with one of those concrete dividers in between the lanes. And it was broad daylight, and there was a mink that had climbed the concrete barrier and was crossing 4 lanes of interstate. He was determined. He was going from one place to another, and he was not going to let I-65 stop him from doing it. And, it just shows the animals are, they deal with the environment that they're in.
Did he make it?
He made it. And I was like, man, I just don't believe I saw what I saw. This mink on the interstate, crossing the interstate, And that's another thing that I learned is, living in a large city like Birmingham, instead of driving outside the city, trap with what you have. And I learned to look for any culverts that went under the interstate, or when you had a railroad track, if you had a culvert that went under the railroad track, it was shocking. Every animal in the county knew where these points were to get across. And it is a natural funnel, and you could look at a map and go do that, and people wouldn't believe what you'd catch in a suburban area.
Yep.
You didn't have to be in the wilderness. So
just because they don't see them, they think they're not there.
Right, and they're there. The tracks don't lie.
No, people do.
Yeah, well, it's like when your car's leaking, you put cardboard under it, and the old saying, "The cardboard don't lie."
No, no, I haven't heard that in a long time.
But it's been fun. I've enjoyed the trip, even though the catch hadn't been up. That's another thing is when I was younger, I was all about numbers and percentages and all of that, and I would pronounce something a success or a failure, depending upon what I caught or whatever. And you realize that just sometimes it's not there. If the animals aren't there, you're not going to catch them. And if the conditions turn against you, there's nothing you can do about that. And that's trapping. That's why they call it trapping and not catching. And but the thing is I still enjoy it regardless. I mean, I like it better when I catch a bunch of stuff, no doubt. But you got to take a step back and look at the bigger picture and realize that you're fortunate to be able to do what you're doing, and you can enjoy the woods even if you miss the animal. You can learn.
100%.
So.
I mean, that topic there can go in a lot of different directions, but it brings up something that in today's world with social media and all that sort of stuff. you know, everybody's wanting to catch numbers, you know, or they're wanting to catch one of these or one of those, or, you know, a new coyote trapper wanting to catch coyotes or something like that. And if they don't catch one, they feel they're unsuccessful, you know, or these kids, you know, I mean, we try and push the kids to, you know, to get into trapping, and, you know, they look online, they join Trap and Talk or something, you know, and they see pictures of guys with, you know, 30 raccoons or, you know, 6 coyotes in their truck or whatever. And, you know, I've had some of them I've had them come up at shows and said they wanted to catch, you know, coyotes like that. And I'm like, don't pay attention to that. You know, it's hard not to pay attention, but don't judge yourself by what someone else has in their pictures. And today those pictures are being thrown in our face everywhere, right? That's in the palm of your hand on your phone. And because you're right, some locations, they don't have the carrying capacity, they don't have the they're not, you know, they're not target rich environments. You know, you got environmental conditions, you know, there's so many different things that changes stuff. Or, you know, you get a disease that comes through, you know, distemper, and it wipes out, you know, all the raccoon in the area. But this young kid, he just started this year, and he didn't know there was distemper.
Right.
He can't find a raccoon, let alone catch one.
You look here, if you looked at the pictures, what we caught here 4 years ago, and then the same trapper, same location, everything's the same except for the environmental conditions. And then you looked at the pictures from this trip, it would look like, I mean, you would think that the other people knew what they were doing.
Did you forget how to trap? Yeah, we had
it's actually been way harder this time.
We had that was that trip. We had that side by side so loaded down with beaver that we rolled a tire off.
Two tires.
Tires, blowing tires. I remember that.
But so
you know, I actually put a video on my channel a few years ago. It was called "Beaten by Black Belt Beavers," and I was down the Black Belt of Alabama, down around Demopolis, which is just swamp heaven. And I went out and I had made a bunch of sets, and I was sitting there that night thinking, man, I'm gonna sink the boat when I go back out. And I didn't have a thing, not one. And I put the whole video up, and I had a bunch of guys comment on it saying, I'm glad that you are honest, you know, and you're not just making stuff up to put on YouTube, and that, you know, even if you're in a good environment, sometimes it just doesn't work out.
That's it.
But, you know.
Sometimes they just don't move.
Yep.
And that's just the way it is.
Yep. Yeah, if you could force everything, you know, into your trap every night, it probably wouldn't be much fun.
No, it wouldn't.
It'd be a lot of work.
Yeah.
I don't do it for the work.
No. I judge my day anymore, you know, if I had fun.
Yep.
You know, I mean, it's like I come in and told you last night. You know, I said, "Hey, man, thanks for us having such a great time out there." You know, I mean, if we'd have caught nothing, or we'd have caught some pickup load, I'm just happy to have a good day out there.
Yeah.
And you never know what you got to get out and do it, even if it sucks, because you never know what's going to happen. You never know what you're going to see, what you're going to learn. It's like Alan with that beaver out in the middle of the open field.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, you know, who would think that you would see a beaver out in the middle of a bean field that far, and there was no cover crop or anything out there. I mean, what he was doing, who knows? But he was going somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, when Alan comes through, everything runs from Alan.
That's true.
He said at first he was scared he got up there after he thought it was. He said, "I hope that wasn't Dustin's dog."
But you know, going back to the simplicity thing, his dog-proof coon trap setup. I took pictures of that. I took videos of that last time. I mean, the way he has it hooked to a piece of rebar with a swivel on it. I mean, he sets and goes.
Yeah.
And that goes back to, you know, the throwing the trap in the mud puddle. I mean, that man can put some sets out, just boom, 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 boom. You know, and he's catching them.
No, he is a killing machine on raccoons and possums.
Yep, he's got that dog-proof system down, where he's got the T-bar stake and he's got a nut welded on it and has a swivel on it, and it's fast, it's simple, and it works.
he's hard to get footage with.
Yeah.
Because
he moves.
By the time I move slower than him, and by the time I got my door open to get out, to get some footage of like a double or triple on raccoons, they're all dead.
Yeah.
I mean, Wyatt Earp had nothing on him on drawing that pistol.
Yeah, I got pictures of his system last year. I had to sneak up after he had parked his buggy, and he had some DPs, and I stretched him out on the ground, took pictures of him. You know, he had to wait till he was gone to steal his idea. You know.
Yep, them guys from Iowa. I mean, they set a lot of traps, and they catch a lot of coon. I mean, there's a lot of, there's a lot of coon there, but them guys have got systems down. Northern Michigan, are you going to go out and catch 1,000 coon? No. The numbers generally aren't there. But you could still take benefits away from stuff that guys that do have big numbers, like that Allen system. It would work great anywhere.
It's just the simplicity.
Unless it's rock hard clay.
Right.
Yeah.
If you get down in Alabama on some of them where it's so hard it cracked, that system is not going to help you there. But generally.
Well, that's and like you're talking about, the conditions are different. Chip had a setup for his DPs with a drag, where he has a little notch in the drag, and he would pre-bait all the DPs, stick them in that notch, and then all he had to do was ride down the road and just drop, and drop those sets in, man, and go. Simple. I think that's really the one thing that over the years I keep coming back to is the KISS principle. Keep it simple.
Yeah. That's what my dad told me. We were down in Louisiana trapping, and he looked in the back of the truck and he says, "You got a lot of gadgets." And I'm like, "No, not really. I mean, like 8 stands." And
yeah.
He said, "It's really weird how much fur we used to catch with just a roll of wire and a piece of bait."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that applies not only to trapping, but I mean, you can look at turkey hunting, deer hunting, anything, fishing, anything like that. There used to be 2 guys from Alabama, TK and Mike, that used to make comedy videos.
Yeah, absolutely.
And some of their turkey calling stuff, there's a double cluck, fly down, stutter, blah, 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 and he would go into this big production. It would take him like 8 minutes to do the turkey call, but that's, the same thing as making fun of, overcomplication. And but and when I was a kid, I can remember guys going deer hunting. You had the wooden stands that you nailed between 2 trees. You took 2 boards up there, a piece of plywood, and they would get off from work in their coveralls that had motor oil on their coveralls, and they'd climb up there with a shotgun, and they'd be smoking a cigarette and kill deer because they knew where the deer were crossing. They knew which way the wind was blowing, and they just got up there and shot deer. And now, man, you can spend $1,000 on a climbing stand made out of, titanium and
scent elimination systems and
the whole suit.
Yeah.
Look like a beekeeper out there.
Yep, definitely. Times have changed, but the principles don't.
No, they stay the same.
Yep.
Yeah, the stuff that works is. It's like the stuff that works, always comes back, and that's pretty much what people stick with. It's like you'll get some weirdo stuff that pops up, and then a bunch of people try it, and then it fades away.
Well, it's like Carl told me yesterday. I'm not a big predator trapper, and so I was watching him and picking up tips on coyote locations and things like that. And I was watching, how he made his sets and asking him questions about this, that, and the other. And he said, don't get hung up on all of that. He said, I would rather have a mediocre set in a good location than a perfect set in a bad location. And that comes to knowledge.
You must have listened because you're the only one that caught a coyote this morning. You're a very good student.
That's beginner's luck.
Yes, you make Carl look good. He needs all the help he can get.
Well, he's management now, right?
Yeah.
We all know how managers are.
Line shit out.
Lining shit out, that's right. Yep.
The only thing I ever seen Carl doing so far this week is standing there smoking a cigarette and pointing. You boys go over there.
and drinking Bud Light.
Drinking Bud Light.
Yeah. I'm not sure I want to go there.
He's a hell of a good guy.
Yeah, he is.
He takes a ribbon good too because we've been giving it to him.
Oh, he's definitely got some thick skin.
Oh
Yeah, yep. I thought the Dead Sea chicken thing was pretty funny myself.
That's meat magnet Carl now. He's now the meat magnet.
Yeah. Carl's Dead Sea chicken. You can taste the chicken, add more salt.
Oh yeah, but that's what it's all about, man. Is having fun because you never know how much time you have left. You never know when your last day is going to be, and you might as well enjoy it.
Well, I was ragging on poor Carl yesterday. I told him, I said, if you were a northern trapper, I said it'd be interesting to see you because I said able to find your sets because I said there you'd make your set and then take a 5-gallon bucket of salt and dump on it.
Yeah, I was just up in northern Minnesota, and that's trapper. You're going to be looking for stuff all everywhere, and that's the first thing I noticed was when it was snowing up there. I was like, how in the heck do these guys trap in the snow? And being from Alabama, that just blew my mind because when it snows, you go sit in the house until it melts.
Nothing but cats are moving down there anyway. So.
So it was, but that was interesting up there, just seeing a different part of the country and seeing how everything iced up, and it was really really cool. I'd love to get up there and trap up along the Gunflint Trail and all of that. It's a beautiful area. There was a lot of beaver sign up there, man. Land of 10,000 lakes.
Yeah. I think a lot of people would like to be able to trap in Minnesota, but
Yeah.
Need to get them to change their laws first.
Yep. I got a buddy that lives up there, and I said, even if I can't do it, I'd like to ride along and watch, and just be part of it. So.
No, that'd be awesome to trap out there.
So what's next in Tennessee? You, I'm assuming their seasons are probably pretty much ending. Is there something you're looking forward to targeting there in Tennessee? Are you gonna stay more water trapping there? Are you gonna move on to predators? Or?
What I'll do is I'll do some turtling, and once again the area that I'm in, it's interesting because it's a lot of rocky, hilly, Tennessee hills, whereas down in Alabama it was all flat and man, it was easy trapping. And everything where I'm at up there is tougher, and it's so it's and I'm fortunate that snaring is legal because when you get into that rocky ground, a snare really really shines, compared to trying to chisel jackhammer out a foothold set, But one thing that I am looking at that I've been watching this year, I'm gonna gear up for next year, is mink. And that's just sort of adjusting to your environment because you've got all these little rocky streams, and you can really get in and target mink, and do the bottom edge sets and that sort of thing.
Yep.
So that'll just be a new learning experience. And since I'm getting a little older, I've found that mink traps are lighter than beaver traps, and mink are lighter than beaver.
Yep.
So
that's how I am with muskrats in our area. I can carry like 4 in each hand.
I'm about to be a mouse trapper.
Yeah. I am a mouse trapper.
You were yesterday.
Yeah. You got to be pretty damn good to be able to catch a mouse by the head in a jake trap.
Yep.
That's some light pan.
Yeah, I was going to say that's paying attention
I
issue.
had a skunk in it today. They rode around and said, "Yeah, you guys got a skunk over there." Me and Jeff's got our traps, right there. And I told him, I said, "If you catch a bobcat or coyote, I said, I'm just as happy for you as if I caught it myself." And but I said, "I sure hope that's your damn skunk."
Yeah.
He says right back at you.
Well, the thing is I really miss that Locklear isn't here this year. I miss that because so far nobody has caught a teddy bear in their trap. And if he's here, somebody usually catches a teddy bear in their trap.
Yeah. He was up at my place in Michigan setting colony traps, and he caught a unicorn. No, I miss him being here. Because like last night when we were all sitting at the table eating dinner, I was thinking, except for like me and Jeff, every other person there, we're only friends or know them, like you or was because of we were all friends with Clint, and so we all got to be friends. Yep. So we all I'm thankful that Clint brought us all together because we made some lifelong friends because of that.
Yep.
Then he abandoned us.
He said, I put the wrong circle together.
Yep. It became too hardcore even for Locklear.
Yep. But I have learned a lot from him over the years. I really have. And the thing that I liked was, he wasn't real big on specific tips and tactics and techniques, but he taught you how to think about it.
Yep.
Which is really the valuable thing. Instead of use this particular trap, or this particular lure, it's what are you trying to do, and look at it from a broader perspective.
He'd ask you why a lot.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? What's your reasoning for that?
Yeah.
And as a trapper, if you ask yourself that when you're making your set, you will think about, you know what I mean? You will, I think, become a better trapper if you ask yourself why.
Right.
Why am I putting it here versus there? Why am I using this versus that?
Exactly.
And if you're a land trapper and got a bad lower back, you ask yourself why. Mm-hmm. Why would I set that there? Mm-hmm. I didn't realize that before, but I asked myself, is that a good spot? Because if I'm going to kneel down and I'm going to be hurting,
it's going to hurt to stand up. Why?
Yeah.
Or do I really want to?
My catch percentage probably went way up with a bad back.
Yeah, I remember one thing that one comment he made that as a water trapper really helped me was, instead of going all the way over there, they've got all night to swim to me.
Yep.
And so find those funnels and those choke points and that sort of thing.
Well, we're firm believers in that policy.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, if I can't down here, if I can't fall out the door and fall into my trap, I ain't setting it. In fact, when he went to pull up to one set with the skunk in, I was like, pull up further because he's only about 3 feet away and his ass is aimed right at me. And that's the shooting end. That's like a cannon ready to go off. And I didn't have my pellet gun with me to keep him from spraying, so I'm over there like Wyatt Earp with a pistol trying to gun him down. And I thought he was dead, and Alan came by and said, how come you guys didn't kill that skunk? I said, I did. He said, he's back alive over there. So, I guess I need a bayonet on the end of that pistol. Finish him off.
I'll let you borrow one of my clubs.
Yeah, they were telling me, I got a catch-all pole here for you. I was like, yeah, the damn skunk could probably run off with my catch-all pole. They so you got are you still doing like your Patreon channel?
Yeah, I handle some content that's probably shall we say not real mainstream, and the reason for that is like I said, I wasn't raised a trapper, and I didn't know anybody that trapped or anything, and I grew up on the Gulf Coast down in Mobile, and one thing that I was familiar with was hurricanes. I went through Camille in 1969, and then Frederick in 79, and Frederick really, really devastated Mobile. And I was a teenager at that time, and I remember no power, no water, the heat down there was just is terrible, and it was just a miserable experience. And I remember telling myself, I never again, I'm never going to go through this again. I'm going to be prepared. And so that sort of got me off into the prepping thing, So I was a prepper, natural disasters or what have you. And as I grew older and I got married and I had a family, I realized, I have a responsibility to be prepared to take care of them regardless. And you can store, rice, you can store beans and all of that kind of stuff. But the thing that really vexed me was meat. And, freeze-dried meat is super expensive. And I started thinking about, how can I provide protein for my family? Well, it just sort of hit me one day that I'm catching these animals, and this is when fur really went down in value. And I'll never forget, I got 75 cents for a coon one time, and I thought, something is not right here. I had to buy the trap, I had to buy the lure, and then I had to go set it, and then I skin the animal, and then I flesh the animal and stretch the animal, and then I send it to auction. I get 75 cents. And then I realize I'm throwing away meat. I'm selling the thing that is virtually worthless, and I'm throwing away the stuff that is worth more money. And that's where the whole idea of meat trapper came in, especially with beaver, because it's good meat, and it was a food source for the Indians, for thousands of years. And so I sort of combined my prepping with my trapping and sort of blended the two together. And, it was slow to catch on, and people sort of mocked me for a long time. But, now it's a little bit different. Now people go to the grocery store and they look at the price of meat, and then they look at a beaver. Well, now, it makes more sense now. And so that's sort of where my two hobbies, I guess you'd call them, my two endeavors came together. And it to me, it just made sense. And I'm not anti-fur or anything like that. It's just, if you look at how much meat that you get off of a beaver, for instance, and you go to the store and you look at organic grass-fed meat, and you look at how much a pound it is, the meat on a beaver is worth twice what the pelt on a beaver is, and it takes much less time to process.
Yep.
And so there's economics there that makes sense, and plus it's healthy. The government of Canada did a study on the nutritional content of beaver meat, because up there they have what they call the First Nations, and that was a food source for them, and they found that beaver had more protein per gram than bison, and it had way more minerals, the phosphorus and manganese and all that. And what they found is that if you think about it, a cow is eating grass, and grass grows real quick and has very shallow roots. You mow the grass, and 2 weeks later you got to mow the grass again. Well, there's not a lot of nutrition in grass. Whereas the beaver are eating the bark off of a tree, and that tree puts down roots that go down deep, and they're in there for years. And so the tree bark has more nutrition in it than grass, has more minerals. And so the beaver is eating higher quality feed than the cow is. And that's reflected in the nutritional value of their meat. And so it's not only economic sense, but it's nutritional since as well.
I looked that up. I found a tag like they put on food, and it gave the breakdown on everything in beaver. And I couldn't even say any of it now because I don't remember. But I was shocked at all the minerals and stuff that they had listed on there. It was pretty cool.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is I mean, I don't want to get off into this discussion, but I'm being treated for cancer, and chemotherapy. One of the things that it does is it drives your platelet count down. You become anemic, and so every 2 weeks I have blood work done. And so I started playing around with my diet and watching the results of my blood work. And so I went on a vegan diet, not vegetarian, but a vegan diet for 2 weeks. And when I went in for my next treatment, they came out and they said, we might have to delay treatment because you're anemic. Your platelets have plummeted. And they were really worried about that. And I told the doctor, I smiled and I said, no, I'll fix it. And she said, well, we've got stuff we can prescribe and we'll take a break. I said, no, I'll fix it. And she said, what are you going to do to fix this? And I looked her right in the eye and I said, I'm going to eat beaver liver and kidneys. And you talking about, deer in the headlights, just what the hell are you talking about? And going back to the Indians, they used to take back straps, and that was their dog food. They'd throw the back straps to the dog food. They wanted the organ meat. And so I eat the liver and the kidneys from the beaver. And so I went home and I started eating the organ meats. I went back the next time. My platelets had gone from anemic to in the normal range in 2 weeks.
Unreal.
Yeah, so I was able to, and it's not like I feel better. I can show you the exact numbers, scientific numbers graphed out of what I've eaten and what effect it has on my blood work. And so you really are what you eat, and wild game is by far better for you than anything you're going to go get in the store.
Oh yeah,
I can promise you that.
Yeah, beavers are basically about the only thing I eat, out there. Like, we eat some bobcats and stuff, but I'm eating a lot of it is beaver meat.
Yep.
Sarah likes making the roasts, and we love it. I mean, it's like a high grade beef.
My my rule of thumb is vegetarians first. Beaver, muskrat, that sort of thing. Omnivores second. That'd be your raccoon or what have you. And then the predators last. And I always, I make a joke. It's like professional courtesy. Predators don't eat predators, right? So it's
Professional courtesy.
And the other lesson is if you're a vegetarian, you're high on the list for for being harvested.
Have you ever tried otter before?
I have one time, and I classify things as desirable, palatable, and edible. And I put otter as edible. In other words, if you're starving, yes. So for instance, beaver is desirable. A coon would be palatable. To me, it's not really desirable. It's not something I would seek out. But then again, if it's done right, it's not something that I'm gonna, puke over or anything like that. Whereas an otter, and I ate otter back straps, and it does not taste fishy. It was just a deep, dark, livery red meat that it did not have a desirable flavor or texture. So yeah, I've tried a lot of different things. Turtle, I love turtle. Turtle's just a hell of a lot of work. There are guys like Newt Sterling out there that make it look easy, and but it's a lot of work. But it is good meat, and that goes back to sort of the prepping thing. If you get on all these survivalist boards and everything about, I'm going to shoot deer. People have no idea what they're talking about, because as soon as you start night hunting deer, they evaporate, they disappear, they're going to leave, But there's a lot of stuff out there that you can put on your list, such as turtles that are going to be swimming right by most people, that they're not going to be aware of in a dire situation.
In a dire situation, there wouldn't be any deer, left.
Yeah.
They'd all be good. I mean, they'd be dead or gone.
What's interesting is I have a friend who has property in a very poor area of Tennessee, a very low income rural area where, I mean, it's in Appalachia there are places that are just poverty stricken, and given the rise in food prices and everything, I've noticed when I go out there, the deer have been shot. In other words, there are areas in this country where people are already in survivalist mode. Mm-hmm. And, it's happening. It's a slow process, and there are areas that are still nice and all of that. But there's a lot of people that are already having to make do.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
But it was like Carl was talking about trot lining and everything, and the ability to me, it's the ability to where if you know how to trap, if you know how to hunt, you know how to fish, all three, they're like three legs of a stool. They all support each other. Yep. And you can go out, whether it's frog gigging, trot lining, turtling, know how to make turtle lines. And this is the stuff that the type of stuff that I cover on the Patreon. It's a lot of it you can't put on YouTube. The antis are always watching, and then you got the legal eagles that want to figure out who you are and where you live and turn you into the warden and all of this kind of stuff. And so that's why if you go to patreon.com/meattrapper or go to meattrapper.com, I even sell a series of 3 books, and basically they're poaching books, but they're entertaining stories about how the guy goes out and how he enters a property and does his thing, and it's educational and entertaining at the same time. And the fascinating thing is, these are expensive books. They're $40 a piece. There's 3 of them. I sell almost as many overseas as I do in the United States. Germany, Australia, Great Britain, those people are really hurting. Mm-hmm. And there's almost no legal way to do a lot of that stuff over there. So if they're going to do it at all, it's got to be under the cover. Mm-hmm. And by the time you add shipping in, I mean, people, think a $40 book is an expensive book. They're paying $70 a book and glad to get it.
Yep.
It's really interesting when you have people in Germany and France and Spain saying,
it's an eye opener.
Yeah, I've had people that have bought traps from me that I can't send them the trap in the mail. So I have to send them 3 packages. 1 package with the jaws, 1 package with the base plates, where I have to disassemble the trap because I can't send them a Bridger number 11 in the mail. Customs will seize it. Illegal. And so that's what and we talk about that. I run 2 Telegram channels for my Patreon members, and we have people from all over the world on that, and they're like, y'all don't understand. We cannot buy a trap. They will have, what they'll do is if they're visiting the United States, if they're going to fly from Norway to the United States, they will have traps sent to an address in the United States where they're staying, and then they'll smuggle them back in their suitcase. And so people don't understand what they have here. And if you don't have stuff, you need to buy it, you need to stock up. Not only are prices going up, but you can still buy just about any kind of trap you want. And there are people 6 hours away by airplane that are having to buy the parts and assemble the traps. Mm-hmm. And the average trapper doesn't understand that. They think, I'll always be able to buy. No, you don't. There's no guarantee you're always going to be able to buy what you want.
No. And you can't buy plastic bait cups sometimes.
Yeah.
So I mean, a trap's a lot harder to manufacture than a plastic cup.
And the trap isn't going to go bad.
No.
You buy that foothold trap, you're going to have it.
Yeah. If 20 years ago you'd have bought 2 semi-loads of traps.
Yeah.
you'd have made quite a bit of money on them just
Yep.
on the price of stuff going on. I mean, you had better traps.
I've still got junk traps that I take out and use. You know, and you think about how old they are and how many animals those things have caught. You know, I have number 11s that I bought 20 years ago, and you look at how much I paid for it, like $4 or $5 for a trap, and then you think about how many animals I've caught for that $5 trap,
Yep.
and how much meat that is. The return on your investment is staggering.
Right.
Yep.
But nobody thinks about it like that. People don't think
No.
about it. You know, invest in your 401k. I'll invest in a number 11. How about that? You know? I mean, so anyway, that's my rant.
They well, so they can find you at the Patreon, and then you still have your YouTube channel.
Yep, Meat Trapper, and then my website's meattrapper.com.
Okay, so if you want to, you know, a lot of you out there will know Tim, but you know, if you don't, go check out his channel. His YouTube channel is fantastic because he covers a lot of different stuff. You know, with one video might not interest you, but he'll have 4 other ones that do. And it's no fluff, no bullshit. If a trap is a piece of shit, he tells you right on there, these traps are shit, you know. You can tell he ain't bought and paid for by anybody, you know. So it's a really cool channel. And if you come on there and give him any shit, he'll tell you to stick it up your ass. You know, I mean, he don't take no bullshit. He don't care, you know. So if I would just warn you, if you don't like that, don't go there. But you know, but most you people out there, you know, are independent people, and you know, Tim's the kind of channel that you want to follow. You know, so go check them out. And what do you got there, Big Shooter?
What's that?
Traplinecoffee.com.
Traplinecoffee.com. Go there and get all your delicious coffee.
Yep.
Yeah.
I haven't. The blueberry things. They got worked over first.
Yeah, those are gone.
Yeah.
Yep.
Those were good.
We now
Not that
offer-
I was the one that worked them over, but they were good.
I think it was a lot of Liz.
Yeah, somebody did.
Yeah, she had purple on her lips.
So we're now offering chocolates. We got 6 different chocolate candies that we offer to go along with our coffees.
The chocolate malted balls are great, man.
Those are my kryptonite.
Yeah.
Those.
I told Sarah we're never ever going in the. If we go in the candy business, we have to go out of the trapping because I'll be so freaking fat that I couldn't. You know.
Yeah.
And the antis, I lose 25 pounds. The antis, hey, you big fat pig, out there killing big fat pigs. And I'm like, that is such an asshole move.
Yep.
I mean, I just lost 25 pounds. You give me no credit for anything.
Yeah. Well, you can buy all of our chocolates, and we'll never call any one of you fat, and we'll actually help take credit for putting that weight on you. We have no problem with that.
Yep.
The coffees are absolutely fantastic, and one of the things that we take, pride in is that, on a small scale, right? We're giving back to the trapping community, through every purchase, whether you actually roll up your sale in checkout, or you put a custom amount in there or not. We greatly appreciate that, but also through every sale, trapplinecoffee.com is also putting a portion of the proceeds back into the trapping community, and that all currently it all goes to Fur Bearer Unlimited.
And not only that, I mean, it's like, every place I go, I see you and Jess, like donate, I'll see Trapline Coffee stuff donated at different auctions and stuff.
Yeah.
And the thing is this isn't some corporation.
Yeah.
I mean, everything you donate, the same as us.
Comes out of
I
your
mean, it's
pocket.
coming. I mean, it's like taking $20 and just giving it to them. You know. So I mean, just so people understand, that when you're donating that stuff, I mean, that ain't free. You paid for it.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
so
No, it definitely has an impact. A direct impact on us, but we gladly do it. You know, it's one of the, it's an industry that we love, and you know, Jessica obviously is the coffee connoisseur, and it was her passion. You know, we used to have a brick and mortar coffee business back in the early 2000s that we closed down in 2008 when the economy turned, and after J3 Outdoors, you know, going to all the conventions and stuff, and she still had a desire to get back into the coffee business, and or to have her own brand really is what she wanted. And I don't know that she wanted it to be called Trapline Coffee. She probably had a little different vision on that, probably like Little Feather, you know, or some
Feller.
Pocahontas or something, you know. But no, so she had a little bit different vision, but it just made sense because we're going to all the trapping conventions and stuff, and trapping being a passion that we combined the two. And
She's the most popular person at the convention.
she definitely
She's got the candy and the coffee.
candy and the coffee, and that, you know, that's what it is. And, so yeah, so that's what we got. So if you're interested, traplinecoffee.com, and we do have subscriptions, which works out really good for people. If you want to get on a reoccurring subscription where you want 1 bag a month or 3 bags a month or 1 bag every 6 months or whatever, you can do that and save a little bit of money doing that way too. So
They if any of you out there would like Jeff Hagerty to start doing a show, send him a private message and tell him that, you know, he needs to start doing a trapping radio show. Especially you, Anthony. You know who I'm talking to. 500 messages ought to do it.
yeah.
No, and to end up, I'd like to encourage everybody to go out and buy a king-size jar of Hellfire. And during the off season, when you're not trapping, just inject it into paintballs and go shoot a liberal. It's great fun.
Well, I'm not going to say no.
Nope.
Start on I-40 on the bridge down there they blocked off.
Yeah.
Protesting for Palestine. But that's another subject.
Yep.
All right. So anyways, thanks Tim. Thanks Jeff. Thanks Liz.
Oh, I wasn't a part of this, but you're welcome.
You just cannot stay out of any situation. There she is. She's seen a microphone, and here she comes.
Someone heard chocolates.
Yeah, she started talking about chocolates and coffee, and here comes Liz. Oh, and her cohort Sarah's here now too. We better go.
Yep.
Bye, everybody.